Happy spooky season, Cretans. Happy haunting season, creeps. My name is Chris. I am the only person talking horror on the internet. So, where have I been? As I do every year, I've been traveling all over the country to go to as many haunted attractions as I possibly can for the few weeks that they're open. If I had to guess, I've done more than 50, less than 75 at this point, lifetime. My record is 11 haunts in 9 different states for a single year, and I'm looking to shatter both of those records with this year's proceedings. Now, I've been writing reviews on my Instagram for a couple of years, so I do have a whole system that I use for this. Watch to the end for my ratings in both individual fields and my overall score. That being said, I started my spooky season this year in Ohio, where I met up with my buddy Jared to go to the Lewisburg Haunted Cave. Located about an hour and a half north of Cincinnati, Lewisburg, Ohio is a farming community of less than 2,000 people in roughly 700 households with one hell of a haunted attraction. Named the best haunt in the United States by USA Today in 2018, the Lewisburg Haunted Cave boasts a top-notch haunted attraction, ready for it, located 80 feet underground in a legitimate, living limestone cave. If you're curious, the difference between a living and a dead cave is the presence of running water. Oh, and there's bats. 30,000 of them. Yes, for real, not in the section that we walked through, don't worry, but they are there. There's really no performers in the line that you use to get into the cave, and I don't really know that there could be, as the steep 80-foot descent that you have to take lends itself both to setting the stage and to potential liability claims were they scaring online. There are plenty of precautions, it's safe, but it is not the section where you want to be startling people. Once you get past that entrance, however, all bets are off. You'll start by traversing a bridge that felt a football field in length, a living pond beneath you in near total darkness. The kid with the group behind us started crying before anything even happened. It's tense and it's measured and it shows signs of restraint so that when things do start happening, oh, they do happen. So I loved the use of natural settings and natural elements, and not only the cave and the water beneath, but the pathway throughout the cave is fairly uneven. And again, this is not dangerous uneven, but uneven enough to throw off your equilibrium and make you more prone to the scare. There's also a bunch of pine trees that are along your path that are meant to brush against you, forcing you to squeeze between them. It's stuff that I've not seen prior, and it works. It's not just that, though. There are plenty of large-scale animatronics that are effectively placed throughout the cave. A lot of them are familiar if you do this thing as regularly as I do, but there are some originals as well. And there was a larger cast of characters that are dispersed throughout. I don't know where all of these people came from, especially considering the small community that the cave is in, but I was certainly glad to find them there, and certainly glad to see how enthusiastic they were about doing this. Per usual, there were enough people given the directive to scream or pop out and grunt or just stand there ominously, but there were enough characters with proper dialogue and interaction that they do have to do actual casting for this. The most memorable of which is obviously when you've descended into hell and you meet Satan himself, who performs and actually interacts with real fire. I am being somewhat vague in that because I'm not here to spoil things. And I'd be remiss to not admit that there was a surgery scene that I was not ready to play out as it did. And it did make me jump, which Jared was shocked by because that shit doesn't happen. Well done, Lewisburg. We were also big fans of the cemetery and the hockey mask rooms, but the most interesting things to me were the cattle corral, where butchers in animal masks corral humans through a very large series of pathways. And in that actual maze, you can actually get lost. It's large enough of a room that they do just let this play out without regard to how many people have not yet found their way out. It is tremendously effective as the tension builds, as you see more and more people not getting out of this. They literally use us against us. There's also several times where you're given an option to choose a path, and choosing the wrong path returns you to places that you've already been. These are things that I've never seen before, because typically haunts just want you to move along and let the next people through. Not every haunt has this amount of space to play with, and I am so glad that they realize that and they choose to do justice to their space. It boasts over a mile of straight haunt. I can tell you that my iPhone showed that I had walked close to 1.5 miles, and it was a 52-minute non-stop journey, though we didn't always choose the correct path. I'm sure that I don't need to explain that this is one hell of a setting for a haunt. I've never done one in a cave before, and I likely never will again unless I come back to this one, and I would. It's that good. Outside the haunt, you can do a wagon tour of a different section of the cave for an additional $20, $10 for kids. We didn't do that. There's also a small concession stands with dogs, birds, snacks, and such. I got a walking taco, which was fine. I appreciated that you had a choice of different kinds of chips for it. They also had a small amount of merch. I collect shot glasses from haunts. They did not have those, so I grabbed this clearance shirt for $8, which was a great value, as well as a 2-pack of these slate coasters, that's upside down, a 2-pack of these slate coasters for $25 because they would not sell singles. Not as big of a fan of that, but this still looks very cool. So here's your overall breakdown. Scariness, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's largely due to the claustrophobia of the setting. As for the fun factor, it's a 7.5 out of 10. I had a great time, I would do it again, but I didn't have this need to immediately revisit as soon as I had gotten out. Originality, it's a 9.5 out of 10. There's a fair amount of standards, but they know the things that they're doing that other people can't do, and they play strongly to that. Storytelling is maybe a 6 out of 10. There wasn't really a linear storyline here. There are scenes that are executed well, but there's little cohesion from room to room. Performances, I'll give an 8 out of 10. I assume that everyone is doing what they're there to do. I personally prefer more characters to jump scares. If you look at it the other way, your rating may be higher. Sets are a 10 out of 10, largely due to where we're situated and, again, the use of that space. You can't do much better than this. Accommodations are a 7 out of 10. I like that there's another activity, there's food, there's merch, but given the space and the amount of people that were there, the place was packed. I feel like they could be doing a lot more. Value is a 10 out of 10. I paid $30 for this. Granted, I went in September, so prices are lower, but they could easily have been charging $50 for this, and I would have been fine with it. They're charging $45 for this right now, the weekend before Halloween. This should be a $60, $65 attraction right now. Overall, and this is not an average of these ratings, the Lewisburg Haunted Cave is an 8.5 out of 10 haunt. I highly recommend it. I'd also highly recommend, while you're there in Lewisburg, going to local restaurant Wanger's. They have incredible fresh beef burgers and irrationally large and delicious wings. Or wangs, as they call them. Seriously, I know that this place attached to a motel does not look like the best place in the world. If I'm being 100% honest with you, we spoke about the food poisoning that we were probably going to get from it as we approached the building. We wondered if we would have done better going to the gas station across the street and getting sandwiches. This is one that you're just going to have to trust me on. It is rare that you find farm fresh food this good. Jared wants to bring his wife and his kids for the 1.5 hour long drive to go back to this diviest of dives because it's honestly that delicious. Speaking of my buddy Jared, if you want to follow his concert photography, it is jwb.imagery on Instagram. I'm sure that he would appreciate you saying hello. That's going to do it for today, creeps. Do all these things. Let me know if you've ever been to the Lewisburg Haunted Cave right over here. And as always, this is all just a matter of opinion. Go there yourself, make your own decisions, remain critical, support haunts, and support horror.